All right. So, um, what we're gonna do today is go over an Angular pipeline, and I'm just gonna use Angular as a front end, just basic project. What we're gonna do is a unit testing, code coverage, and then a containerization workflow where we will build it, store the artifacts, and use the Docker file from the artifacts to build it. And then another Docker workflow where we'll just do everything in the Docker file. And yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. We're also going to add a couple cool features. Let me see. Pull this up. Edit this around. Okay. So what we can also add here, so let's go to the pipeline, is, okay, so let's use this one, for example. Actual pipeline. So you're gonna see all these jobs, and then also you can see the unit tests. So you can see like how long each test took, if it passed or not, like where it's from. So these are just like the actual just base project. I didn't add anything. Oh, you know what? I actually need to npm install. So that will take. Okay. So now that we have that done, so you can see it's just going to add these. So add a second one. Add new test. I don't really care what this does. I just want it to pass. I just want to show it's going to add a new test. But to do this, basically, you just need to install a couple dependencies first. So we're going to install this Karma JUnit reporter. So you're going to do an npm install that. And then you need to set up a Karma config, which I'm going to have my project available so you can just copy this and use it. So if you look here, I have a JUnit reporter, and it's going to expect a test report, or it's going to create a test report.xml, and it's going to put it in this reports directory. So that's going to be important for the pipeline job. And then also we're going to need to create a container to do these tests in. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. So I have a folder right here called pipeline containers, and pretty much it just takes a new node image, and then we're going to copy in this install script and then install it, run it. So if you look here, we're just gonna do an update, then we're gonna get some tools installed. But you know what? I think you only need these anyway. And then this is going to get Chrome, the stable version, and go ahead and download it. And then you're gonna update and then install it, and then set your Chrome bin. I'm doing this here, but I'm also doing it in the Docker file. It doesn't really matter. But let's go ahead and do this. So let's go into pipeline containers, and we're just gonna say docker build -t. And then if you wanna put this in a registry, you can, but I'm just gonna do a test real quick, just to make sure it builds. Oops. Oops. There we go. So it's gonna go ahead and build that container, doing that install script. Then it should be good to go here in a moment. I do also have a version available. So in my GitLab, You go to containers, I have a Chrome container. So basically it's the exact same thing. And I also have a pipeline script. So if you want to copy this project, you can. It'll make a container that you can use, like a private one. But if you go here, container registry, you'll see this one, and you can just grab version 1 with in the chat. Bam. Okay, so that's in the chat. So that's going to be my public container that you could use. That's going to have this installed already. So what we will do now, let's get out of here. So now that we have a Chrome container that we can use, we need to create a pipeline job. So what we're going to do first is the unit test one. So you're going to create a job called unit test. And what we also want to do is we need to install the Angular CLI. So I just made a simple reusable pipeline script so I can just kind of reference this with IA. So if I do star IA, it's going to do all the Angular CLI. And what I can do, I'll install it, do a clean install on all the dependencies, and then I'm going to run ng test and do the Chrome headless. And then when I do that, we're also going to save the artifacts. And here's that reports, test report XML. So let's open up this Karma config. Bigger for right now. This. So we have this Karma config. We're going to go down to the JUnit reporter. And then from right here, you know what, actually, let me make two. Hopefully that helps. It's a little bigger. So we have this JUnit reporter, and the output directory is reports, and then test report.xml. We have that there, and then that's where we're going to be saving that artifact. And then we also add this reports field, JUnit, and we just add the same exact thing. So that's how you're going to get it to show up in the pipeline tests. And also you'll notice code coverage is the exact same thing, but we just add this code coverage, and we don't have a JUnit report, but we're going to save the report. The coverage report is that. And I believe that's also in here, yeah. So right here in the Karma config, oops, I save it as reports coverage. So that's how that works. And then you can set the what you want. So this is for 95% code coverage. And I believe that's all you need. And then if you do already have a Karma config, you need to add this Karma JUnit reporter. But like I said, you should just copy this as like a template and you can quickly set it up. So once we have that there, let's go ahead and commit this. So now what's really nice about this is these are going to run every time you make a commit. So you can test your changes out and you can kind of do git ops. So that way you're going to test out to see, you know, like every time you commit your code to the repository before you do a merge request, we'll have like a test report of what test passed, what test didn't pass. So it just kind of helps you monitor what's going on in your changes a little better. So let's do a git status. So we're going to see we edited those. So we're going to say git add that. And then let's add a commit message, add test. Usually you do this on a new branch, but I'm just gonna push it real quick because it's not a big deal. So let's go to our pipelines. Should have a new pipeline running. Oops. So let's actually open up, let's make it bigger. So let's open up the unit test first. And then let's let this run. As you can see, I'm also running this on the local runner. So if you watched my YouTube video last time, we updated we deployed this runner. So you can use your personal one or you can use the shared runners. Not a big deal. Sometimes they do take a second. Boom, okay. So you can see it ran all the tests. So it kind of booted up. I'm just scrolling up through this here. You can see it ran the whole thing. So it did a npm install, installed Angular, and then it did the test. Did some kind of config. And then down here, you can see it started running the tests. So 4 of 4, here's that new test we added now because there's 4 now instead of 3. And then it uploaded artifacts, so you can see if you hit browse, we have reports, test report. And then now we can view the code coverage. Should have kind of done something similar. There you go. So you see statements, branches, functions, lines. We have 100% code coverage. You can see there. And then it should also have uploaded a report. Yep, the coverage report. The pipeline failed because Docker build, I changed something. But I want to test something first. So let's see if it added that new test. Okay, so now we have 4. So you can see app component should add new test to the pipeline you want. Right here, it ran, took 58 milliseconds. So there's the testing, it's working. So now all we have to do is fix the containerization, the build. So let's look at the build container. Let's see what's going on with this. Okay, so it's saying no such host Docker. So I think what we need to do is add an A. So let's go back to this pipeline file. You know what, for these ones, let's do tags shared. So we're gonna run the Docker build on the shared runners because they are privileged and you don't have to mess with privileges. I just think that's kind of my issue. So, oops. So I'm gonna say git add that. We're gonna build on the shared runners. Now let's go back to the pipeline. This should fix it. Should run pretty quick. So these should be running on, yeah, okay, so those are running on my private one. Docker Spackle, okay, perfect. So if I go to build, yeah, shared, perfect. And I'm doing something with the cache. So instead of like actually installing dependencies on every job, you can see right here I have a cache. So I'm just caching the node modules. So that way when I do it in the unit test, it should be available for the rest of the jobs after. So it'll download the cache. So we'll look at that. And also, let's go over how these work. So the first one is going to build Angular first. And so let's look at that job. So all this does is just do an ng build, and then I save the artifacts, which I updated my Angular to build to a public folder. So I changed that myself. And go back to the pipeline. You'll see that's all I'm doing is just saving everything that gets spit out right there. So right here, to do a successful build and then save the artifacts. And then what it's going to do is this one needs the build Angular stage, and it's going to use the normal Docker file. And what that does is make an nginx container and then copy our website out of that public folder into the nginx, what it, basically what it serves in the web server. And then you also have this optional config, which I believe this is just a super basic config that should work. And then, so I'm not really making about the NGNX. I just kind of have this here so you can mess with it if you want. And then the other way is you do everything inside the container. So basically, I'm going to create a multi-stage Docker file. I'm going to create a working directory, copy in the package JSON, do an install, and then do a build. And then from here, do the same thing as before. I'm just copying my build into the place where it serves the HTML, and then also copying in that config. So it should do the exact same thing. Now let's test it out. So build Angular finished. So if we look at the alternative way, which is building it from start to finish, you can see it's starting. So here it made that working directory. Right now it's installing all the dependencies. So, oh, it looks like it finished. Build, it did a successful build, it copied it over, and then now it's pushing it. So this one is probably about to complete. Yep, this one's done pretty much. And then let's look at the build container. This one looks like it's already successful as well. And this one's really fast because it's already built. It's just copying in our artifact over. So now we have a successful pipeline. And you can see from here, open it up. So now you can do your code coverage, your unit test, and then you can build it regularly, save the artifacts, and you can version it. So you can add, like, you know, if you do a release with a git tag, it'll save that version, build the container, and then it would build that like containers version. You know, so now you have two options. You can just build it all in the container or do it through the pipeline. And also the pipeline is a containered system. So as long as you're using the same pipeline or the same container in your pipeline as you are in building it, I don't think it matters. And what I mean by that too is like this one right here. So if you notice, this completely matches my build Angular. So that's my node image I'm using. So it's kind of building it in the same environment anyway. I'm pretty much doing the same thing. So you can kind of think about that. It's really up to your preference and what you want to do. But that is a very simple demonstration on how to do an Angular pipeline. It's really easy. And what's cool is you can use this for any project. So now you just have a working template. You basically say, okay, I have these 2 stages I need to add. Here's a config for the container. So it's going to create this image variable, which do an image name in this version. And then you could update this to like the CI commit ref, or you could do I think it's CI commit SHA. The short SHA. So you could do it like that. And then you could do something in there like, you know, if the version is something like, you could set this somewhere else and say like, oh, if there's a git tag, then use that instead of the version. So it's all up to you. And then this is just needed for when you do Docker builds because there's a service. So it launches this as a service and you kind of need to say the it just kind of helps when you're trying to connect. You'll get some certificate error if you don't do that. But yeah, I mean, you're using Docker, and Docker. You're building the container. We're doing all the tests. So that's just a really quick video on how to do this. Go ahead and copy this project. You can fork it. Let me know any other projects, you know, like a Go library or like a Python project, whatever you guys want to see, let me know and we can see if we can get a full pipeline like this for it. But that is all I'm going to do for right now. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.